It is 9:45, so I'm going to start up again. I don't see Keegan up here, but hopefully he'll jump on in just a minute. So I am going to continue on. Now, there's probably not a lot more in this document, believe it or not, that I'll have to go through just because, for instance, they talk about, you see this where it says C# insert into database? Is that what you see on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. So they're assuming you want to add a new record. So they're saying this is what you'll have to do. Now, we're not going to do it like this because hopefully you notice this. If you look at it, we're hard coding. I mean, imagine that if you wanted to add 50 records, all right, how tough that would be. You could do it, but it's really kind of to do something like that. All right. So ours isn't going to look like that, but if you do want to take a look at it, you can. I mean, what I liked about this thing is they do give you a good explanation of what's going on. All right. When you click to connect, then what you'll notice is it's already run the command, so it's added a new record to the database. Then they give you an update, and they say that you want this to say vb.net complete instead of vb.net. The bottom line is this is what we're looking at, and you know how to run commands like this. We don't run them the same way because we've been running them under phpMyAdmin, whereas right here it's running them under C#, but the idea is the same. And when you get done and you click connect again, you'll notice it's changed it from vb.net complete or vb.net to vb.net complete. Then finally they go over deleting. So they want to delete that record they've just put in. Again, there's the delete command. They run it again. They click connect and they're back to their original 2 records. Am I right in assuming there is nothing in there that it's hard for you to understand?
Correct.
Okay. So the author says in the earlier sections, we have seen how you can use C# commands like SQL command and SQL reader. That's the ones we looked at before the break. All right, you're going to see an example of that in just a couple minutes, using them with a message box. Then they quickly went over the other 3 commands that you'd put in there. All right, and those other 3 commands are going to do the insert, the update, and the complete. All right, so now they talk in here about doing this, and what they have in here is totally fine. This is kind of what we're going to do. We're going to manually build this stuff. And after we get done, I'm going to see where we are time-wise. And depending on where we are time-wise, we may do it again where it's much more automated. So we may replicate a lot of the stuff that we're doing, but do it in an automated way. So why would we do that? Well, if you can do it manually, you should have absolutely no problems doing it automatically, because automatically it's a lot more just drag and drop. But this way we're going to have more control over the size of things, where we put things, etc. So, all right. So they have you come in here and create this, and notice it says drag the binding navigator. What you get with doing it this way, we will not have this on the first pass or 2 that we do, but you get this. And it may not look like much, but when you come in here, this allows you to iterate through all of your records. So in other words, if we had 10 records, it would say 1 of 10. You could click here to go to the next one, click here to go to the previous one, click here for the last one, click there for the first one, etc. There's even a few other things that it provides for you. All right. We are going to end up doing a lot of this stuff, just not exactly in the way that they showed it. When we come in tomorrow, we're going to be creating a new database. And when we do that, I'll show it to you tomorrow, but it's going to be a lot like we've created stuff in the past, except, in fact, let me just show you. I'm going to change my share for just a second. All right. we're going to come in here, and can you see the green stuff with customers and orders right now?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to come in here and we're going to right mouse click on the name of our project, and we're going to choose add. You've done that before. We're going to choose new item. You've done that before. What you haven't really done though is click data and go in and find service-oriented database. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to create a new database that way. All right. And after we create the database, it'll be right here. Then when we right mouse click on it and we choose open, what it's going to do is it's going to come in, and it's kind of hard for you to see it probably, but over here, you're going to have the database here and here. So who cares? This is what's called your SQL Server Explorer. So after we create the database, we should then be able to come in, choose the database on here. And if we wanted to run queries, we could run queries. We'll first come in and we will add one new table manually by clicking there and choosing add new table. And when we do that, we're going to get this. It's a little hard to understand when you first see it, but really it's still loading. But what's going to happen is it's going to give us our table in a GUI form and in a non-GUI form. So we can go in and we can add new fields in here. This is how we'll build the customers table. Or we can add them in here. There really is no difference. Then when we're done, we'll change the name of this from table to customer. And then we'll click the button here that says update, and it'll add that table in here to our database. I'm not saying, does that make sense? Once you see it in action, it's not difficult. And we could spend all period tomorrow just creating those 5 tables. And maybe we will. Maybe we'll create all of them manually. All right. And you can come in after you've done that and you can add data manually as well. But rather than doing that, since we have all of our data already, what we will do, I believe at least, what I'm planning on doing is having us just run queries in here on that data. All right, I'm going to click here and it's going to say to you, well, I thought it was going to say, do you want to save? But it didn't. Eventually, what we'll see in here then is we'll have tables. So notice, I don't know how well you can read this. I can't make it any bigger, but I've got a customers table and an orders table. So if I click on customers right here and I right mouse click and I choose show table data, there's my customers. Again, sorry, I can't make this any bigger.
Oh, no, it's fine.
All right, but those are the customers. All right, and then if I go in and click on this table and right mouse click and choose show table data, those are the orders for the customers. And if I want to, I can go back to either table and say open table definition, and it shows exactly how these tables were set up. All right. So what my hope is that tomorrow, when we come in here and we run this. Now, this is the stuff I used last year, so the data is different. Don't let that bother you. But notice we have two. When I click on either of these buttons, it's going to show us a message box with all the records that are in there. So I click here, and it says an attempt, well, for some reason it doesn't like something. I'm missing something in here. But what should have come up is a message box with all of those records that you saw in here and the message box with all the records you had in there. Now, I went through and I was cleaning up a bunch of stuff on my system. I hope I didn't remove, I'm not worried about this project. We're going to rebuild it. But I'm hoping I didn't remove something from my SQL Server stuff that we'll need. I guess we'll find that out tomorrow. All right, so
Okay.
I'm going to jump back then into the article. So that's the stuff we're going to do. We're going to come in there and we're going to use the wizard to create the database. All right. And it's even easier than it looks right there. When you do this and you come in, and I'll go over this again tomorrow because I want to make sure Keegan sees it as well. I don't know how he fell off, but he did. So when you look in here, Microsoft Access, I may have mentioned this before, I may not have. That's the relational database management system that comes with Office. So it's a real scaled down version of what we're going to be using. All right. And it doesn't support hundreds of users, it only supports tens of users. If we wanted to use something that was not a database, like a spreadsheet or something, we could use this, which is Open Database Connectivity. We'll want to use this one. It's one of these two. It's either SQL Server or SQL Server database file. I don't remember, but we'll use one of those. I think it's the second one here. And if we were using Oracle, we'd use that. All right, so we'll choose that. We'll say continue, and it'll talk to us about creating a connection. All right, this will be the name of your server, and you go, how will I find that out? Either when you click down here, it'll show it to you, or I'll show you how you can go into the projects window and find it. So don't worry about that. This, we're going to just choose this one right here, use Windows authentication, which means all this will be grayed out. So we don't have to worry about that. Again, what we're saying is if you want to use this, all you need is to be logged onto this Windows machine. You don't have to have an extra layer of protection with a username and a password. We could put that in, but since we're all using our own machines, it really isn't necessary to do that. All right. Then when you go through this, what'll happen after everything gets set up and you click down here is, like with mine, it'll show a lot of databases because I've got a lot more. Yours may be empty or have very few databases in there. But we'll want to choose the one that is going to be up here from our project that we created, and then we can test the connection. And if it dings, it means everything's cool so far. All right. Then we go through, and it's going to ask us. It says, well, what do you want? Which data connection do you want? Again, we'll walk through all this stuff. I'm not trying to confuse you. Yours might very well be empty. Mine might very well be empty when we do this tomorrow. So we just click new connection, and it's going to come back when we click new connection, and it's going to show this thing again. And we'll have to run through the steps that I just mentioned to you. It's not difficult after you've done it once or twice. It really is not. All right. Then we'll go through it. It'll say, save the connection to the app config file. Now, again, I don't expect you to understand or remember this, but there's going to be some files that get created for us automatically. One of the files that gets created for us automatically is this application configuration file. And it'll say, do you want to save it there? And we'll say yes. All right. And so it'll automatically save some stuff. We can rename this if we want to. That's fine. We'll click on next. And it'll run through and it'll say, okay, this is your database. After we put our tables in it, it'll say, these are the tables that are inside. So we'll click this right here, this checkbox that you see right here. That'll click every table we have in there. And that'll mean that we'll be able to work with any table we want to. We don't have any views. We don't have any stored procedures. We don't have any functions. Sometimes what users do is they'll check all of them just in case they add more later. It wouldn't hurt a bit if you did that. Then you click finish. Then everything is ready to use. All right. And we're going to create our things in one way, and then we'll come back hopefully and have time to create them in yet another way. What you are going to get from me tomorrow, just so you know, because I've got to kind of redo it, is a write-up of everything that we're going to be working with. Now, it's possible that either A, you may not have some of the software that you need. For instance, if you look in here, I don't know, I think you can see this. I'm clicking the Windows Start button way in the bottom left-hand corner. And I'm coming down here. And I'm going through it, I'm going through it. And let's see. I'm not even sure if I've got the right software that we're going to need. And maybe it's better if I don't, because you may not have it either. When you go through here, what you should check for is to see if in here, under your S's, you've got anything that says SQL Server. Could you do that right now? Just check.
Sure. I do not.
Okay. And I don't either. And I'm looking down here, and under Visual Studio 2019, I don't see anything either. I may have removed mine. I think I told you that when I was going through here and I kept running out of room, I was removing stuff right and left. So that's fine. If you don't and I don't, and maybe Keegan doesn't, we can do it tomorrow. I mean, literally, and I would wait till tomorrow if I were you, but literally, we're going to come in here and we're going to bring up a window, a browser window, and we'll type in install SQL Server. That's it. And then we'll go through the steps. And there's another thing that you can use that we can install also that's called SQL Server Management Studio. Sometimes it's called SSMS. But we can install both those. The problem is neither of them are really humongous. They're both big enough. But the problem is they'll probably take anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes to go through them or to install them for each one. So that's going to be a little bit of a waste of time. But other than that, there should be no problem with it. All right. Let's see. So we'll be able to go in then, write queries, and write code that writes queries. All right. So we'll be able to do the stuff that they're showing in here. So the first pass that we do of this is going to be, there'll be very little automation on it. Basically, we're just going to click either one of those buttons like I showed you. And what it's going to do then is it's going to show us a message box with the records that are in there. That's all it's going to do. All right. And we can add what's called a data grid. A data grid, when you run it, ends up looking a lot like a spreadsheet when you run this. And it's just going to show you all your records at one time like this. All right. That's it for this. Now, what I think I'm going to do, because basically I'm done with what I wanted to cover today, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. Let me stop my share and start it again. So, all right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type in literally into this tab, install SQL Server 2017 or 29. I suppose we should probably try to do the newest one. So I've got install SQL Server 2019. It brings us up to a lot of different sites. And it says here for the basic install, to install with a default, we just want the basic. We don't want anything. All right, we don't want it. If you need to look at this, I guess you can. Typically what you want is you want something like this. In other words, I'm going to be much more trusting of SQL Server downloads from Microsoft than I am from SQL Shack, which I never heard of. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to click right here on SQL Server Downloads Microsoft. And it says, what do I want? You want on-premises. No, you don't even want that. There should be a free copy in here someplace. Let's see, developer, full-featured, free edition. That's what we want. Developer or Express. Ideal for development for desktop and newer. Used for development test database and a non-production. Small server applications. Wow. I'm going to go look because I want to see first which one they recommend, but I'm going to download one of those. So I'm going to go out to Microsoft.com. I'm going to do this now and make sure that there's no glitches. Then when I get done, I'm going to do the same thing with management, SQL Server Management Studio. I will document everything that I'm doing and I will send it to both of you. All right. If you have time to do it before class tomorrow, great. If you don't, we'll do that first thing in class. All right? Are you with me with everything?
I am.
Okay. So that's basically, like I said, I didn't know how long all this stuff would take. I also didn't know that I'd remove some SQL Server stuff that I needed, but I did. So I'm going to go through and look at this stuff now. You've got everything turned in, so I'm kind of preaching to the choir. Keegan hasn't turned in either one of the worksheets. Keegan, I hope it's okay that I said that in front of Angie. But I am taping this, and I'm going to send Keegan an email because by tomorrow I'd like both of them turned in. You're fine with that. So we'll pick it up here tomorrow at 8:05. Okay. I'll talk to you later then. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.